Hey friend, I'm Danielle Damrell, and I am so grateful that you're listening to the Created Worthy podcast. This show is all about honoring the life stories of women from different ages, beliefs, backgrounds, and experiences. Everyone's got a story, and instead of getting stuck in the trap of unworthiness, this is a safe place for stories to be shared. On this show, we chat about the transformative power of creative processing too, and how we can utilize our God-given creativity with intention to heal, grow, find joy, create simplicity in the midst of our chaotic lives. So pull up a seat at our table because we are all created worthy. Hello, welcome back to the Created Worthy podcast. Today, I'm joined by another worthy warrior, Tracy O'Malley. Tracy is a highly sought-after master performance coach for companies like Google, Amazon, and John Deere, a top Enneagram expert, multi-millionaire entrepreneur, and a mom of two incredible millennials. She has helped millions all over the globe, individuals, couples, families, leadership teams, Fortune 100 executives, and CEOs step into the leaders that they were always designed to be and create an effective and beautiful culture, not only in their professional teams, but also in their home teams. She teaches both professionals and individuals how to integrate the Enneagram in every area of life, guiding people to think and perform differently, uncover and change habits that no longer serve them, plus shift their relationship with money and intimacy by identifying where they are blocked and rewiring those limiting beliefs. Tracy, thank you so much for joining me on the Created Worthy podcast. I can't wait to hear even more about your real life story.
I'm honored to be here and honored to serve.
It's so good. I've met you in person now 2 or 3 times at a couple of different events. And every time I've heard you speak, I've just been like, oh my gosh, I can just see that the work that you do comes from such a depth of passion, there's just so much wisdom, and I can tell that it like connects to who you are and what you've gone through. So I've been like, I need to get Tracy on Created Worthy. I can tell she has a story to share. So it's just so good to see you. So just to start off, I would really love for you to tell us a little bit about what the beginning of your journey was like, the beginning of your life. Where did you grow up? And can you paint a picture of what your childhood was like for us?
Yeah. And this is for the woman that's listening right now that thinks there are parts of their story that they keep under lock and key disqualifies them, because I did that for 40 years. The parts of my story that I'll probably very openly share now were the ones that I kept under lock and key because I felt like they disqualified me for stepping into the legend that I know that I was always designed to be. So I want you to listen and hear parts of yourself in this story, because we're all very similar. The experiences might look a little bit different, but what we believe about our story is very true for a lot of us, especially women. And I grew up in the Midwest. I'm a Midwest girl, Chicago through and through, and lived there and planned to live there my whole life. I grew up, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm 52 years old. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and long before the internet and things like that. We're the first generation of feral children. Basically, they had commercials about to remind our parents that they had children, like legit. Every night at 10 o'clock for the 5 TV stations we had at 10 o'clock, they would say, "It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?" And our generation that I grew up in became very resilient, resourceful, independent, all very good traits, and also highly dysfunctional in some ways too. And also growing up in a highly functioning alcoholic home as the oldest daughter, that amped that resilience, resourcefulness, independence even higher. And I remember as a little girl being able to read people very well. I had to figure out where my dad was at emotionally and physically in order to play chess with the rest of the household, right? I was the one kind of keeping it all together, or so I thought. At the age of 4, I remember that. And I have a younger sister who's 2 years younger than me. And from the age of 4, I was taking care of her, cooking meals as a 4-year-old, doing laundry. Super grateful for those things now. I've always been super independent, but holy crap, like that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, at
And
4. Like,
at
you're
4,
basically just a baby.
I am a baby at 4 years old. And that went on for a long time, and I prided myself on that. I really did. Like, it made me feel important. It made me feel strong. It made me feel like I had control as well. And so I took that and ran with it for most of my younger life. My mom was emotionally unavailable, suffered with severe depression, did not get out of bed most days. So even though she was physically around, emotionally, she was non existent in a lot of ways. Not mean, not like she's a beautiful person, but like just emotionally incapable. And I remember early on her telling me she was intimidated by me and felt competition between me
Mm.
and like between me and her for my dad's attention, which was very bizarre. And I'm competitive, so of course I'm going to win. And I did. I won my dad's attention more so than my mom. I could feel the respect he had for
Yeah.
me over my mom. And that was a weird dynamic as well. And as a little girl, like from the neck up, I could understand and assess what was happening logically and cognitively. But from the neck down, I was dying because it was too painful to wrap my heart around that and believing that my only worth was being accommodating and accessible and accepted by my father. And so in the home, I was very much like the peacemaker, but out in the world, I was like a bull in a china shop. Like that anger and that resentment, like definitely would boil over out into the world. And I would blow up friendships and blow up my own life and could not be led very easily if I didn't trust. And if I didn't trust leadership, whether it was in school or coaches or friends, if I didn't trust that they could handle a situation, I would take over. And that served me well on paper. I have the receipts to
Yeah.
show that worked out really well for me in athletics, in school, in my career. And then I went to college and I was going to go away to college. I ended up with a softball scholarship, but I didn't want to leave my dad. My parents had then divorced, like right as soon as I finished high school. And I had this dilemma. Do I live with my mom, who probably really needs me because my sister was crazy? Or do I live with my dad because I'm worried what will happen if I'm not there to make sure he doesn't burn the house down because he would drink and then smoke and then fall asleep with cigarettes. So every day of my life, like I would stay up till my dad fell asleep putting out cigarettes. And so I decided to live with my dad. And then that whole dynamic got even weirder, right? Because I was 19 and it was weird. He started dating and I was dating, and it was just weird, but also equally awesome. Like he was one of my greatest teachers of entrepreneurship and understanding how money works and all the things like that. And like what I believed my worth came from is rooted in a dysfunctional relationship with my dad.
Mhm.
And I remember I was a sophomore in college when I met my husband at the time, and he played sports too. So we both played sports. So I ended up playing softball locally rather than going away to college. I took a scholarship closer to home so I could live with my dad. And when I met my husband at the time, I was like, okay, this is a good person for me. And I met his family right away, who was super beautiful and loving and kind and nurturing. His mom was dreamy, so emotionally present that looking back, and I was 20 at the time, I fell in love with that. And he was from Arizona, was in school in Chicago and hated it in Chicago and complained about it. And I was like, it's not that bad. And then he had a baseball tournament out in Arizona, and I visited in March, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this even existed. And he's, I want to move back there. I'm like, sign me up. And so within a few months, we were engaged.
Wow.
And within a year, I had moved away to Arizona. But before I did, I had to tell my dad. And he didn't care that I was getting engaged as a 21-year-old and getting married as a 21-year-old. He could care less about that. But when I told him I was going to be moving close to 3,000 miles away, he tossed a table and had a tantrum and basically let me know I was leaving him. And I was like, wow. I wasn't conscious of it at the time, but I recognized that the reason that I picked this man who is beautiful, he's the father of my two kids, he's an amazing person. was I believed the only way I could justify leaving my dad was to get married and to
Mm.
move away. I didn't see that I had enough value in myself that I could make decisions for me, that I was worthy enough to go live my own life. The only reason I felt I could justify leaving my dad was getting married at that time. And so I did. And I moved away, almost 3,000 miles away, got married at 21, had back to back Irish twins like a good girl does. And by the time I was 25, I had a marriage, 2 kids, 2 dogs, and a mortgage. And I was doing great. I was like, see, I've been adulting since I was 4. No problem. No problem.
Wow.
And then my daughter turned 4.
Mm.
So my son was 3 and my daughter was 4. And all of a sudden, all the memories that I thought I could outrun, outwit, outsmart, outlast,
Yeah.
outmove came flooding back. And when I looked into the eyes of my own 4-year-old, I recognized the responsibility that was put on me. And I was filled with so much rage
Mm.
against my own daughter, because the inner child in me was like, how does this little girl get this life that I didn't get? And it's not fair. And she doesn't know how hard I had it. And I want to make her life just as hard because it's not fair. And I caught it. I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, okay, if I don't get help healing this, and I was only 28 at the time, if I don't get help, one of 2 things or both of these things are going to happen. I'm going to try and make my daughter a mini me, which she's not like me in a lot of ways, or I'm going to lose her, or I'm going to project all my crap onto her. And none of that is fair. And
Mhm.
so that was my first journey into really personal development before it was thing. This was 24 years ago. And I started on this journey to understand like where this is all rooted from, why I am the way that I am, how I can leverage who I am, understand who I am, and also leverage it into my superpowers, rather it being the kryptonite that was in my life. And how do I break these generational things for my own children, not just my daughter, but my son? And so it was another 12 years of doing the work in quiet, because the generation I came from, we don't talk about these things. You know, what happened in our
Mhm.
house stayed in our house. Suck it up, put on your big girl panties. That was the generation of parenting that we had. It was like, you don't talk about this crap. And so I did a lot of my work in silence. And I was in a dysfunctional marriage as well. And I had dysfunctional like coping mechanisms. If you don't repair it, you repeat it, or it gets repeated, or both.
Mhm.
And I was living proof of that with a disordered relationship with food, alcohol, anger, codependency, all sorts of things, everything but drugs, basically, I've used to cope in my life. And for 12 years, I kind of white knuckled my own healing until it hit ahead. And when I turned 40 is when it hit ahead. I had just gotten through a divorce, the recession of the 2008 housing crisis. I was a casualty of that, lost everything.
Mm.
At the same time, I was getting divorced. And then right after that, I'd been an entrepreneur for most of those years and had to go back into corporate America. I was the sole provider emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially. And in the moment of that, my dad gets diagnosed with cancer. And within 12 days, he went from diagnosis to death. And it hit me upside the head with a 2x4. Like, life really is too short. And what am I going to do with this life? And what do I want to move forward? Because if I'm modeling this for my kids, they're only 20 years out from what I'm facing right now. And I don't want that for them. So I need to know a different way, go a different way, and show a different way. And so I made the hard decision and humbled myself to completely wipe out everything and everyone in my life but my kids. I decided to get brand new tools in my toolbox. I voluntarily checked myself into an inpatient rehab for all those coping
Wow.
mechanisms, not just the obvious ones, but the ones that I kept in my back pocket in the secret that nobody knew about, and basically stripped myself down to ground zero and said, okay, I don't know a different way. All I know was what was taught, told, and modeled for me. And I don't care how strong your mind is. Your body keeps the score. Your nervous system remembers. You will always do what feels familiar because that feels safe, in that you have most control. And what I knew wasn't good. And so, really voluntarily saying, I need to start over at the age of 40. At the same time, I also resigned from my job, taking my income down to zero. So, literally let go of anything and everything but my 2 kids and decided to start over. And that's where my my personal development journey, my wisdom of my life, all the things that I thought qualified me, I realized were the qualifications for me to be the leader and legend that I am today. First in my home team. I needed to practice that first in my home team and turned that whole ship around. The kids were 14 and 15 at the time. And then ventured into business in a different way than I'd ever done before. And I'd always been in kind of service and male dominated industries before. And this time I walked into a female dominated industry in health and wellness and leadership with women, which I hadn't done a lot of before. In rehab, I was introduced to the tool of the Enneagram by my therapist.
Wow.
And I came into it kicking and screaming. She wanted me to do this, and I told her to kindly go F herself respectfully. And she was a straight shoot and no BS kind of girl like myself. And was like, listen, your best thinking has gotten you here. And this might help you get out of the box that not only you've put yourself in, but the world has also put you in. And it really gave me a language and a framework and a navigation system. And it was funny because my whole life I've been into navigation systems my whole life. Like my brain and the way that my makeup is that meme, the guy from Hangover, Zach Galifianakis, the
Yeah.
meme, he's looking at the board and it's all these equations going on. That's me whenever I'm with people. Like I'm always seeing where
You're
this
like,
road.
how can I read them? Yeah.
Yes. And in the past, it was to be protective of myself. Now it's like, how can I be the best person for the person in front of me, whether it's my
Mm.
kids, people I love, people I lead, people I meet. And the Enneagram basically just gave me a language and framework to what I've already been doing my whole life. And I was really excited about it because I was like, wow, I knew my framework and I knew my language, but now I could start helping other people with theirs. And it was so ironic also because as a little girl, usually on Sunday mornings when the dust would settle from a rough weekend at my home, people would say, thank God it's Friday. I hated Fridays because like
Me
it
too.
was on. It was on. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like dad was done with the work week. Mom was like, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yep.
And here I was, like this little girl trying to like keep it all together. And on Sunday mornings, I would sit and read the atlas long before there was like GPS on
Oh,
phones and all of that. I literally would sit down and read the atlas. And it's so symbolic for who I am. Like part of me was like, how did I get here? And how the heck do I get out of here? But also, where do all these roads lead? Where do all these roads lead? And that basically is what the Enneagram was, is who am I? What's my home base? And where do I go during this? And where do I go during this? And where do I need to take detours? And where do I need to go off-roading from time to time? And where do I need
yeah.
to like get back on track? And when I was learning about the Enneagram, even though I came into it kicking and screaming, I realized that not only did this give me navigation and words and an actual framework for me, but for everyone. And even with the Enneagram, I stayed in the closet with that for another 5 years. I didn't tell anyone about it. I was using it the entire time, but telling nobody about it. And it wasn't until about 2017 that I started coming out of the Enneagram closet now, too, and talking very openly about it, mainly because I was so pissed off that it became trendy and people were using it so
Yeah.
flippantly and like a party trick. And I was like, you guys are missing it. So I came out of the Enneagram closet, not because it was trendy, but because I was pissed off that people were missing the mark on it.
Yeah.
That's how I became known as like the Enneagram girl. I had no intention
Yeah.
of ever it being a huge part of my business. It's not the only part of what I do, but it's
Right.
like the entry level gateway for helping and giving people the navigation system to understand who they are. Because if you're here to do big things and make big impact, whether it's in your home, out in the professional life, and or both, you have to know who the heck you are. You
Yeah.
have to fully, transparently, vulnerably, compassionately, and curiosity. And
Right.
so that's how that whole thing happened with the Enneagram. It's crazy.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh. I teared up a couple of times. I
Mm,
am an Enneagram 4, so I feel
yeah.
very deeply.
Yes, you do.
Um,
I'm dating one.
oh, yay. Yes. I think we're pretty cool, but I'm
You're very
also
cool. You're very
we
cool.
also I don't know if you about your boyfriend, but I
You're a lot.
do cry. And
Yeah.
I am a lot.
In
Yes.
all the right ways. Like you're a lot and you're worth every bit of a lotness. I say that
Thank
about
you.
Enneagram 4s. And the other thing about Enneagram 4s, there's no two alike. It's the one type that like you
Yeah.
can't like pinpoint them. They're so unique, which is
Yeah, because we're
I
the
love them.
individualist, right?
Yeah, the romantic, the individualist, the creative artist. Yeah, I love it.
With the mural on my wall.
Obsessed. Obsessed. Of
I was
course.
like, "I need a background for my podcast. I think I'm just gonna paint a mural." And then I have got another one over here and
I love it.
My house screams I'm a 4. I had somebody come into my house once and they were like, "Your decor style is really interesting." They were like trying to pinpoint what it is. And I was like, "Yeah, what do you think of it?" They're like, "Everywhere I look tells a story." And I was like, "I love that. I love that
Yep.
so much."
Yep. That's how
So,
fours roll for sure.
so Tracy, I just am so inspired by you and your story and how much you have learned about yourself. And
Mhm.
so, my big question to you is, who are you? Like, you've used the Enneagram
Mhm.
to discover and therapy and rehab and all of these different healing modalities, I'm sure,
Oh, yeah.
to really get a good picture as to who you are and why you are the way you are. So I just want to give you an opportunity to tell us, what is your Enneagram and who are you today?
And that being said, I'm also a woman of faith, and I've always been a woman of faith. And the other thing that I did as a 9-year-old on those Sunday mornings is after reading the Atlas, I'd get on my bike and go around. Like, I was raised Catholic, but not really.
Mm,
And I was always seeking like a bigger meaning for like, why am I here? And God, if this is part of my story, please let me know it matters for something. Like, as a little girl, I was seeking out, please explain to me why this is happening. Not like as a victim, but let me use this for something good. And I'm a firm believer. I don't like the expression everything happens for a reason, because there's some really horrible crap that happens and
right.
heinous and unthinkable things that happen. And I do believe that everything that does happen can be used for something beautiful. That I do believe. And who I am is definitely, I've always been here to activate people. Now, sometimes that's received very well and it's very magnetic, right? When people are ready to be seen and to really like they know they have this calling on their life that's been divinely given to them. And I do believe we are all divine. We have a divine blueprint that God has given us. I
Hmm.
do. And that's the beautiful part about the framework of the Enneagram is it's in God's beautiful perspective of all of us, right? Now, we have free will though, and we have these experiences and families and systems that we're dropped into that can change the expression of God's divine plan for us. I was designed to be an activator. I was designed to be a challenger in this lifetime, which is an Enneagram 8. No doubt about it. I activated, like, I came into this world fighting for my life. I did. I was almost born 7 months in utero. My mom's water broke at 7 months.
Um,
Miraculously, like, I made it and I stayed in utero till full term. I fought my
Whoa.
way. I almost died when I was a year and a half and fought a hospital stay for salmonella as a 1.5-year-old. And I've always been here to activate. The problem is my little girl heart felt rejected and abandoned over and over because when you activate people, a few things happen. Either they get really mad at you, or they leave you, or they're magnetized to you. And so I had a lot of that in my life. I had a lot of that in my life, and it felt like part of me that challengers, I don't freaking care. I don't need anyone. That's part of being the Gen Xer too. Is I don't need anybody. I'm super hyper
Yeah.
independent. And also it hurt a lot. And instead of allowing myself to feel the hurt, I would cloak it with the flex and the anger and the stoicism, right? Like anger is usually the bodyguard for some deeper sadness. And I didn't understand that calling very early on. And I would take it personal, but act like I didn't. I was like, fine, next. I don't care. I don't care. But I actually did because we're human beings. And
Hmm.
it didn't hit me that, and I didn't fully embrace this part of me from a higher integrity filled place and with beautiful intent. I didn't understand the responsibility or the assignment, right? Like I didn't
Hmm.
understand the assignment. I just felt I'm just an asshole.
Yeah.
And people just misunderstand me, including my own mother, including my own family. And who I am today, I'm here to activate you. And one of two things will happen when you're in my presence, whether it's listening right now, or you meet me in a room, or whatever. You're either going to be really drawn to me or you're going to be scared like scared like shit because you can't hide from me. And the
Right.
good news about that today in the last 12 years is when I see through you, it's for your greatest good.
Mm.
It's to really hold you if you're willing. I met with one of my mentors and practitioners that really support me. And she explained me as this. You have this beautiful way when you're in somebody's presence, like your soul enters their body and you are like this glue for all their broken pieces that they're not showing, but they feel like they're about to fall apart. And all of a sudden, you enter their energy with your soul. And all of a sudden, you are the glue that holds them together and holds them up and
Mm,
elevates them. And you allow them to see their value even through the broken pieces, to learn how to trust themselves and their soul's calling that is given to them by God. You have that ability, and I have my whole life. The problem is some people say they want that, but then the reality of the responsibility that comes with that is really challenging because it's super disruptive. And I'm
mhm.
not afraid, obviously, as you heard the part of the story where I wasn't afraid to disrupt my entire life.
Yeah.
To whom much is given, much is required, and with great reward comes great responsibility.
Mhm.
And if what you say you want is really what you want, there's probably not the easiest, softest way to get there. And
Yeah.
so, what I do is come in, activate you, nurture you, protect you, and guide you so that when we do disrupt your life, you feel really freaking empowered doing it and you feel whole and authentic and true to who you are so that you can understand the assignment that's on your life and move
Mhm.
forward in it in a way that doesn't feel clunky, inauthentic, like the other shoe's about to drop or whatever that looks like for you, to keep you from self-sabotaging it, for you to have the right people in your life, the right support, the right partners, the right friends, the right love, to be the mom that you want to be, all the things. So, yeah, that's who I am.
So what number are you?
The Enneagram 8, the active challenger.
In case somebody isn't familiar with the
Yeah.
Enneagram lingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely like all
Yeah.
throughout your story, it's like you can see those threads and how
And
God designed you.
what's cool about the Enneagram too is there's a very distinct and divine motive for each Enneagram type. And that
Yeah.
motive for an Enneagram 8 is to be strong and powerful. And my whole life I have felt like I was, right?
Mhm.
The problem is what I believed strong and powerful to be. So for each Enneagram type, what you believe like for an Enneagram 4, it's being you authentic and unique.
Mhm.
But if you're in comparison mode, that isn't like you don't even know what
No.
unique and authentic is, right? For me, strong and powerful, quite honestly, meant abusive and domineering. That was what was modeled for me. So I had to recalibrate and understand what divine power and strength meant. And actually,
Yeah.
that means the very thing I'm most afraid of, which is vulnerability.
Yeah.
And the real shift happened when I embraced vulnerability and the softer parts of me. And
Mm.
when I did that, I became powerful beyond measure in ways
Wow.
that I never thought I could be. And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt from time to time because the more vulnerable you are is a bigger risk.
Mm.
But I understand the assignment now. And there's that healthy and not so healthy side to each
Right.
Enneagram type. And the cool thing that I learned about this 12 years ago in rehab at probably one of the lowest points of my life.
Yeah.
And the big exhale came in understanding this is was like, oh, you mean I don't have to change who I am? I don't.
Mm.
I'm responsible for the come from though, and the energy in which I bring to
Yeah.
it. So understanding I was an 8, understanding the motive and the fear associated with that, and very true. And the superpowers of the 8. When I was
Mhm.
reading about the 8, I heard things like world class leader, protector, a savior for a lot of people, the person on the front line of people's life. Like that's who I am. Those things are only my superpower. And same thing for each Enneagram type. The superpower is only the superpower when you are in a place and coming from love, compassion, empathy,
Mhm.
service, grace, fun, and innocence. So my
Mm.
intensity, that strength is only super powerful in a good way when I'm coming from those places, because that same intensity and that same power that I've had my whole life, when it's coming from fear, insecurity, unworthiness, shame, guilt, or ego, it's a wrecking ball to anything I care about in my life. My
Yeah.
health, my kids, my relationships, my money, everything. And so the good news is for all of you is you don't have to change a damn thing about who you are.
Mhm.
And you are 100% responsible for the come from, regardless of what you've been through. And so
Amen.
that's the work. is okay. I'm always going to be spicy. I'm always the girl that, like, if you need somebody taken care of, I'm the girl.
Yeah, call
Right.
Tracy.
Yeah. If you're in, like, I'm the best girl in crisis, no questions about it. Like, I was going to be like a trauma surgeon, a firefighter, paramedic. Like, I was born for crisis management.
Mhm,
I could, in the past, I've been a wrecking ball because it was like, oh, I have to, my ego, right? Like the
mhm,
flexing complex, where I wouldn't actually help people, I would enable them.
mm,
Now it's, I can assess a situation. And even though I could come in and put on the superhero cape and save the day, is that actually what's best for this person?
mhm,
I can walk alongside of them and take their hand in a journey that's really painful, whether it's a client or my kids or a friend.
mhm.
And I don't have to save the day, but I can walk alongside them through the journey in the dark night of the soul. And so that's the cool thing for each and every one of you. You don't have to change yourself. You don't have to reinvent yourself,
Yeah.
but you are responsible for taking what you have been through and making it something beautiful and using it to, instead of defining you, refining you.
Yes, I love that. That's like the heartbeat of created worthy, right? Is that we are inherently created worthy, but we still are responsible and we get to choose where our worthiness is found in, like where we find our worthiness
And
and what
life
it's
in
rooted
you is
in.
no joke. Life's us
Mm-mm.
really hard sometimes.
So hard.
And I want you guys, if you're listening and you feel like you're at a fork in a road, like this is the most defining moments of our life. And there'll be times you pick the road. Often when we're faced with a decision, like we're at that fork in the road. And most oftentimes we pick the road that we know, even if it's hard and not great, because we have this illusion that we have more control. If even if it's hard and horrible, at least we know what to expect. That's why we end up in relationships and stay in relationships and situations that aren't for us, because at least we know what to expect there,
Mhm,
right? Where I'll challenge you and where all my growth and all the juicy parts of my life and where the real strength and power came in my life is deciding to take the roads I don't know,
mhm,
even though they're lonely, even though people misunderstand it, even though people are like, I'm going down the other road, you're on your own, kid. All the really good parts of your life and your growth and the support and the friendships and everything that you want for your life is in the roads you don't know. But you have to courageously, curiosity, with compassion, with care, go down the roads you don't know. And the cool thing about the Enneagram is it tells you which road you need to take,
mhm,
because we're more than just our type. There's all this framework attached to us. So every time I'm faced with the fork in the road, I know which direction I need to go. And it's scary, but at least I have a guide to take me through the road, even if I'm alone, even if I'm misunderstood, even if I'm hated on. But the more courage you have to go down the road that you don't see clearly, the faster you will accelerate your transformation in your life. And the
mhm,
faster you will manifest and gain all the things that you say you want. It probably will look different than you expected. People might show up that you never would have thought would be in your life. And that's exactly how God designed it to be. But you
mhm.
have free will and you have to be brave enough to do it. And it's a daily practice. And it's just like going to the gym. Nobody like, yeah, I love J Lo's booty. Who doesn't? It's beautiful.
Right.
And most of us want it. It's, ooh, I want a nice round juicy booty, little peach butt. But most of us will get like, print out her workout. We'll YouTube what those workouts look like. But unless we're in the gym putting the reps in consistently day in and day out, we don't build the muscle. This muscle of going down the roads that we don't know is going to feel like we did 5,000 squats
Mhm,
and we can't get up. It's going to be painful the first few times you do it. But think of it after a really hard workout the next day when you can't get up off the toilet. And even though it hurts and you're like, oh, you did good work. It
mhm.
hurts so good.
Yeah.
So I want you to remember, in this journey of this emotional intelligence and this stepping into the legend that God designed you to be, there are going to be the days that it's going to hurt so good. And just know you keep going. You have a daily reprieve that's contingent on the maintenance of this spiritual condition. Maintenance, contingent on the maintenance. It's not like a box you check and, yep, I know my Enneagram type. Cool, I'm solid. Or, yep, I went to this event. Yep, I did the work. Or I did an inner child workshop. So, yep, I'm healed. This is
Mhm.
not how this works.
Nope.
This is what we do till we're done on earth. And so just know it's going to hurt some days harder than others, but the more you
Yep.
do it, the easier it does get and the faster the recovery from the roads less traveled.
Wow. Oh my gosh. This is just the most like I needed this personally. I know
Mm.
that my listeners are going to be so encouraged by this. You just like overflow with wisdom. And I am just so grateful for you and for the just the way that you so eloquently were able to tell the hard, dark parts of your story. And even as you grew up and how that was, it didn't stop there, right? Like the hard, the dark, the scary, the hard decisions, the confusing decisions that both were made for you and that you made didn't stop just because you turned 18.
And it doesn't stop just because I went to rehab, and it doesn't stop
Yeah.
just because I have a strong faith, and it doesn't stop because I made a lot of money, and it doesn't stop because I have love. None of it stops because new
Yeah.
levels bring new devils, and every new level of your life will bring greater challenges and new forks in the road.
Yeah.
And just if you know that going in, it doesn't mean it's easier or less disruptive or feels good. But I know the more I continue to grow into God's calling on my life, the more forks in the road I'm going to be faced with.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. I
Yeah.
understand the assignment. So here I am. It doesn't mean I love it every day, but this is
Yeah.
what you're called to do. And if you feel like you are facing forks in the road, take it as a compliment that God
Yes.
sees a divine warrior in you.
Yes, what you are called to do, you are equipped for. And that is, yeah, that's what I live by over the last few years has been like, okay, God, if you're calling me into this really confusing and hard thing, then I'm going to trust that you have equipped me for it. And I thank you for that. Thank you for giving me the skills, the
Mhm.
knowledge, the
Yep.
support, whatever it is. Even though I may not feel like that in the
No.
moment,
There
I
are days I have
most
a
of the time
tantrum,
don't.
like, I'm mad
Yeah.
about it sometimes. I appreciate it and I'm grateful for it, and there are days I really wanna just have a tantrum.
Yeah, same. So,
Congratulations, you're a human.
yes, welcome. You have reached human status.
Yep.
So, before we close up, can you just tell us what is coming up next for you in your life and business and
Mm.
where people can find and connect with you?
So for years, I have had people, therapists, other Enneagram people. There's lots of Enneagram information out there, and because it became so trendy, there I get asked all the time, "What's the best test? What's the best certification?" And I have no poker face, and I'm like, honestly, it depends. If you really want to use it the way that I use it, then there isn't a good one. And after many years of being asked and begged, please, can you build some kind of certification where I can learn the Enneagram and integration of it the way that you do it? And so this fall, and that was my dilemma is I don't want to just build a certification because if I'm going to put my name on somebody, I need to know their intent. And so I have a prereq in order to
Mm,
even be invited into my certification to use this to work with individuals or teams and groups or to become the mastery level, you have to do the prereq, which is you have to go first through an intensive with me.
mm.
So I have 3 different dates this fall. Depending on when you're listening, you can go to tracyo'malley.com. If you want to learn the Enneagram and integrate this and use this with individuals, whether it's in your own home or families and professionally, groups, teams like I do, in order to be invited into that process, you have to go first. Leaders and
Mm.
legends go first. Those 3 different time frames are happening this fall. You can see all of that on my website. And if you have more questions, you can reach out there. But my goal is to empower and be the leader behind these leaders that are going out and making a big difference in the world using the framework of the Enneagram the right way and with
Yes.
powerful integrity. So it's been a long time coming. I've resisted it for a very long time because I wasn't sure how to not police it, but manage the integrity of it.
Yeah.
Sure, I
There's
did.
just so much hype and like
I
it's
know.
been overused by
Like,
the wrong people, I think. And
mhm.
then there's been all these lies and the TikToks and blah, blah, blah. So there's just been a lot. And somebody needs to come in and set the record straight, show people
Hi, it's
the
me. That's
actual, yeah,
me.
it's her, it's Tracy.
It's the 8, it's the challenger, big shocker there. So,
Yes.
So
I'm
that's
so
what's coming
excited for
up.
you.
And 2025, I will be leading those 3 groups. Anybody that decides to move forward into using it with individuals and then with teams and groups, that cohort will start at the beginning of 2025. But in
Wow.
order to be part of that, you have to go first, which is
Yes.
a perfect design. Because the reason I have the wisdom and um, integrity in everything I do today is because I was always willing to go first.
Mhm.
And I walk my talk in everything I'm going to do. So if I'm going to guide you to guide others with this, you have to go first. So
Mhm.
if that's not you, go find a
Yes.
different certification. I'm not your girl.
Yeah, there's lots of free tests online. You can
And
and
good
books
luck.
to read and things like that.
Mhm.
But if you're real serious about it and you want to use it the way that I believe God has created it to be used as an incredibly helpful tool in not just learning about yourself, but really learning how you relate to this world and how you can clarify
Yep.
that calling. Tracy I've heard a few of her just keynotes and I've been like, yeah, she's the real deal, you guys. So
For
you got to
sure.
go check her out. Go to her website at tracyo'malley.com. We'll have everything linked in the show notes. And Tracy, your journey from rock bottom to top Enneagram expert is again beyond inspiring. You
Mm.
have gone before us, so many of us. And I am just so honored to have heard your story here today. And I'm excited for my listeners to be encouraged by your life. The transformation that you've gone through is so apparent. And now that you've helped millions of others do the same and are going to continue to help millions more make that same transformation, that is all a testament to your resilience and to your dedication, to your integrity, and God is just really working in and through you every single day. So I just want to encourage you to keep empowering individuals, couples, professional teams, individuals, everyone to uncover their true potential and lead with authenticity because God knows our world needs more authenticity. Your impact is profound and your light truly shines so brightly. Continue encouraging others to evolve and achieve their own unstoppable success. You, my friend, are created worthy.
Hello, beautiful people. Thanks for listening to my story on the Created Worthy podcast. I hope that you understand that every single part of your journey was required, especially the hard parts, for you to be the legend you were meant to be. You got this.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to the Created Worthy podcast. I hope that today's show resonated with you. And if it did, can you do me a huge favor and go leave a 5-star review? This helps more listeners find the show and it expands the reach of the stories and concepts that are shared here. All the links and guest information are in the show notes. And if you're on social media, come hang out with me. You can find the Created Worthy podcast on both Instagram and Facebook. Or come follow along with my personal IG page where I just share more about the real, sometimes messy life of your fellow worthy warrior. Can't wait to talk to you soon, friend. And don't forget, we are all created worthy.